Welcome everybody, thank you for this opportunity. To be honest, I was debating, do I put something together, placards and read something off? And I said, I'm going to go off the energy of this room. The first thing I wanted to do is thank you guys for being here, to create such an opportunity. Now, I was thinking that we're the generation moving forward, thinking unity, but I can see that's already started well before me. This is the beauty of it. We're sitting in a room of all different faiths and willing to learn and not argue, but to understand each other. And that's where the idea of the talk show came, which I'll talk about later. First thing is how I got here and what we're going to do next. So, born in Abbotsford to Punjabi parents. Parents that definitely went through racism. Like I remember my dad at the grocery store, you bloody Hindu, or not really knowing the faith, and then 9/11 happening, and you think that people would know what Sikhs are or Islam is, and once again at 2001 going through it all over again. And at that point I'd taken a trip to India, and for the first time I had noticed a nation of one people. I don't know if that makes any sense, but when you are in Canada, you see Asian, Indian, black, yellow. We fit together. It's a beautiful thing. But say you land in India, there's 1.5 billion of us, and it's just brown people. And at that moment, I realized there's Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, and you can't tell the difference. Bless you. And you can't tell the difference, and everybody just gets along. And at that point, my whole question period started. So this is about a 2002, 2003, right after 9/11. And so I watched Gandhi, I watched Malcolm X, you watch Martin Luther King, and you notice that from day one, there's always been the idea of bringing people together and having equality, whether it's political, whether it's religious, economic, or financial, to try and be equal. And at that time, I was a banker. And so, banking world, suit and tie guy for 10, 12 years. And I had a cup of tea and a journey in India. And I didn't drink tea in India. If you're Indian, you know what I mean. Every house you go to a visit, they serve you tea. And I mean, if you went to 10 houses in a day, you're going to get 10 cups of tea. So after 9 months of being in India, I did not have one cup of tea. Now, I didn't want to come home. India changed me somewhat. And got to the airport. And I looked at my family, kind of sentimental, had a tear in my eye, or maybe two. And I was like, you guys want to go for some tea? And my family started crying. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's go for some tea. So we stepped outside the airport. And the tea shop there isn't like the fancy Starbucks here, or it's a little cart. You just kind of push it along. And the cup he washes it out of a bucket. So he just doses it in a bucket, shakes it off, and pours your tea. And I've never had a cup of tea so good in my life. The 6 of us sat there talking with the cart guy, and the family just reminiscing about the 9 months. I can't believe it's gone by so quickly. And get in the airport, now I'm a little more sentimental, kind of sad I'm leaving. Get to Frankfurt, Germany, and I decide, you know what, I want to reminisce. I want another cup of tea. So went to the cafeteria there, and the cup of tea, same orange pico, nabob, red box, cost €6. So exactly. So €6 at the time was $22 Canadian. Now, in India, on the other hand, we had those 6 cups of tea cost us 30 rupees. Now, that 30 rupees at the time was $1 Canadian. And my world flipped. I mean, I can't explain to you. I went so introvert. I felt like the enemy to myself. I couldn't believe that an imaginary line called a border said somebody on this side of the border is worth this much money, and someone on that side is only worth this much money. And it was the same orange pico, nabob box, everything identical, but the value was different. And so the question came up, is like, who creates that? Where did that come from? And I felt like part of the problem. I was the banker. I was corporate America for 10 years, and I came home and decided to talk to my parents, and I was like, hey, I don't think I'm supposed to be a banker in my life. And along the way, I've met many people that told me I'm not supposed to be a banker, but we won't get into that story. And got back, and within 3 days, I quit working at the bank. And that's when this long hair started, and the flip-flops started. So before that, I was a suit and tie, ironed my shirt, pleats all the way through. And after that, I decided, why am I conforming? When I wear a logo, I say I belong to this group, or I can afford this type of clothing. When I cut my hair, it says, okay, I'm either a preppy or a hippie, or stereotypes me. It puts me in a certain demographic group, which I just realized the other day by doing this, I've also put myself in a stereotypic demographic. So that change happened. And then it's trying to figure out, what do I want to do in life? What am I going to do? So 2 years I spent basically spending my savings, traveling some more. Speaking of traveling, I've been around the world probably about 26 times now. Got lucky to work for WestJet Airlines. And so with them, it was about $8 a flight anywhere we wanted to go. By traveling, I think you learn a lot more of the world than any book could teach you or any words, because you're experiencing it for yourself and you're seeing it firsthand. And didn't matter where you go, it was always the same. The poorer the country, the happier the people. And I don't know how to explain that to you, but say you went into a small village in India and it was all mud huts and people could barely afford the food and water that they're eating that day. They went out of their way to treat guests and make them feel welcome. It didn't matter what background you were, what faith you were. If I came with a friend, it was instantly, you're part of the family and we're going to give. And so that got me questioning. I'm like, why can't we do that here? Here we lock our doors. We don't know all of our neighbors 3-4 houses down the way. We really don't. I remember walking to my grandma's house. I was about 20 blocks away, and an old lady stops me and says, "Oh, don't go to your grandma's. She's gone to a wedding." And I'm thinking, who's this crazy lady? Like, what's happening? Like, this is 20 blocks away. So sure enough, 10 minutes later, I get to my house, I knock on the door, and the tenants are like, "Oh, sorry, your grandma's gone to a wedding out of town." Like, how can this be? Like, somebody that far away, I've never seen them before, knew who I was. So that gave me the idea of sense of community, and about knowing your neighbors and being free and open and not locking your doors and feeling safe. So back here again in Canada, I was like, what am I going to do? I have to do something in life. I can't just be a bum the rest of my life and be upset at the way society is functioning, dividing each other, like as they say, divide and conquer. So I pull out a binder. You know, in grade 12, when you sit down and you do career planning and the teachers ask you, what do you want to do in your future? And they ask you like 100 different questions. Well, on that piece of paper in 1995, I had written down that I want to own a coffee shop called Spill Your Beans. And I thought about that. I was like, what? I really want to do this 20 years ago? Spill your beans? And didn't even think twice. I got on the internet, looked on Craigslist, found the coffee shop that I own right now. 2 days later, I own the coffee shop and renamed it Sip Chai. The reason we did it Sip Chai is because we figured everybody does coffee and we want to do tea. So we figured it was a cup of tea that made me see the world differently. So I'm going to try to help bring change to the world, one cup of tea at a time. And so we have tea from all around the world, and on my walls, I keep the walls gray as a neutral color, and so you'll find a picture of Buddha, Guru Nanak, Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, because we did not know how to represent Christianity without offending one or another group. There's baby Jesus, there's Mother Mary, there's the crucifix, the cross, and there's so many different ways of representing it. And you know, I'm going to tell a story about that. About 4 months into the coffee shop, as we were setting it all up and I had all the pictures up, I didn't have anything representing Christianity at the time because we were still trying to figure it out. And a lady who had a great experience came up and says, "Love your shop, beautiful environment, but you're missing something." And so I asked her, "Well, what am I missing?" And she said, "You're missing Jesus in here." I agreed instantly. I was like, "Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm not sure how to represent it." But her next sentence was, "Well, whatever you do and whenever you get it, whether it's the cross or crucifix, you have to take all the other ones down." And I didn't get in that shock. I see where you're going with this. So right away, I was just like, okay, I didn't like what she said, but at the same time, I had to let her know what she said in a nice way. So we repeated the whole conversation 3 times total. So the second time, I'm like, okay, ma'am, I agree. Like, I need to get Jesus in here. So how do I do it? And she goes, "Doesn't matter how you do it. Just do it at your own way. You'll figure it out. But when you do, you have to take all the other ones down." And something clicked. And so I repeated the whole conversation again. "Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed your stay here. And so I need to bring Jesus in here. So what do I do once I've got Jesus in here?" And she goes, "Take the other ones down." And I said, "Well, why do I do that?" And she said, "Because they didn't exist." And so without getting angry, without getting upset, and I said, "Well, what if I told you Jesus never existed?" And instantly you could see she went red. She kind of got offended and upset, I think, at herself. She walked out. Her friend apologized. Within 2 hours, she was back at my coffee shop, and there's a penguin card on my wall. It's the first card I was ever given, and she thanked me for helping her see from the other side. And we've gone to the temple together, we've gone to church together, and it's the idea of being able to communicate with somebody and not telling them they're wrong, but letting them know that what they said and how you felt feels to them. And so I found a way of making her feel what she was making others feel. And wasn't putting her down in any way, but that gave me the idea, like, hey, we can do this on a regular basis. Like, why not communicate? Why not share different backgrounds and faiths? Why not have a medium where this already exists? Which I'm surprised that you already do this, just not through media. And we figured, you know what? Spill Your Beans was going to be the name of the coffee shop, and the idea for the talk show came to be. So slowly I started to pick up supplies, equipment, and then one day I just said, why am I waiting for this? You know, like, I could wait for the perfect moment for another 10 years. Why not just start? And the moment is now. And that is the most important thing, is the power of now. Just like us sitting here right now, I could share with you and say there's a movement coming, and that movement starts right now. And is it a Canadian movement? Is it a British Columbian or an Indian or a Christian or Sikh movement? No. I think the movement is a worldwide Canadian movement, and it starts from Abbotsfordians, like us right here. And if you believe what I'm saying, that starts right here today. And by that, Canadians are what? The most multicultural, diverse country in the world. I think it starts right here in Abbotsford. I mean, all of us, we can believe this right now, and that energy we're going to take home and talk to maybe friends, maybe family members, maybe online. Then that message will get shared to other friends and family members and online, and eventually Abbotsford can reach the Valley, which can reach BC, which can reach the west of Canada. And what is Canadians, as I just said? It is a bunch of immigrants who fled maybe war-torn countries to find a better lives for their kids, good futures, good education systems, clean environment, and here it is. So it starts from here, I think. And I mean, you've already laid the foundation, I would say. Our team here isn't doing anything different. Our team decided, well, if we come forth and share our views and values, then it's bias. So what we do is we go to groups like yourselves and we share their story. So we covered Greek days, we've covered, we went to Pride Festival. Now, as much as flack you're going to catch at Pride and how our mayor got about the flag and running the stairway, the energy that I found, like that word pride, suits it. I've gone to Sikh parades, Diwali, I've gone to Christmas, New Year's parades. The energy that was at Pride, you will never experience ever in your lives. I can't explain it to you. Just proud of who they were without any concern of judgment, and not worried about what somebody would say about them, to them. They just enjoyed the moment. Okay, let's break down the concept of who we are. Now, let's ask, like, who are you? Are you parents or children? Are you employers or employees? Are you brothers? Are you sisters? Like, we all wear so many different hats for so many different people in our own world. So let's forget all of those relationships. Let's forget all of those ties, and let's think of ourselves as just beings or creatures on Earth. Like, don't we all need the same basic concepts? Like a little bit of respect, some safety, some security, good health system, education system. Now, it doesn't matter what background or faith you're coming from. The basic necessities of humanity are the same. And I mean, I don't see why we would divide ourselves on a belief system. Now, if I have faith, whether it's in this God or this being or nirvana as a Buddhism, it's still faith. We're believing in something that we can't really touch or put our fingers on exactly, but we know it's there. So shouldn't that be a powerful enough thing to bring us together, the idea of faith? And that's what we're trying to do here with Spill Your Beans, is get people to share their faith and realize, wow, we are a lot more similar than we are different. And once we realize that our similarities are stronger and forget the differences, we can move forward, I think, to a better tomorrow. And that's our goal with Spill Your Beans. We're not here to put you on the camera and make you look a certain way. We want you to be you and openly discuss what you want to discuss. And whether you want it to be on camera, like, we're going to open it up for questions eventually. And if you don't mind us turning the camera to you as you ask the question, we would love to do that, but we don't have to do that. So that's what our idea and goal is about sharing and uniting. I don't know how other way to describe it, except I'm an old banker turned hippie, now a talk show host. And who knows what tomorrow will bring. Think about this, you guys. We're sitting here right now in the small, like 49th parallel in Canada, and you think this is the only meeting happening right now in this world? No way. There's no way. There's so many more just like this, and maybe bigger groups, maybe different colors and faiths and backgrounds, but they're talking the exact same thing. This energy is worldwide. I mean, it's not just here. It's universal. And I don't want to point fingers, but I think money, unfortunately, rules. And right now, we're a fear-monger society. I think the two most important things in this world are love and acceptance. Now, we might not love what some of the things my neighbor might do. We might not want to accept them. But if we accept them as a person, we can learn why they do them and share our opinions. If right away we tell them they're wrong, it's combative. It becomes an enemy, and it becomes like, oh, why are you telling me this? I think if you learn to accept, for whatever reason, like, wow, this is scary. Even a murderer at some point is going to be justified in making that murder, committing that murder. And so murder is wrong. It doesn't matter what faith you look at it and what group you go to, murder is wrong. But when you talk to them, like, how do you know it wasn't a father who went after somebody that went and raped his daughter? And I mean, I'm not justifying it's right. Rage takes over people, and we take law into our own hands. But it comes from acceptance first. If we can accept somebody and love somebody, then we can learn them and maybe grow, maybe understand why they did what they did. But it starts with love and acceptance. I consider us a medium. The middleman, just like the coffee shop. It's the neutral gray wall. And I told my team this, and I'm like, you guys, the talk show is just an idea. It's a vehicle. Now, I can drive this vehicle wherever I want to take it, but there's 12 of you guys on this team. So you each drive it to wherever you want to go and take it. So we have this vehicle that we can take anywhere we want to go, whether it's through faith, culture, whether it's through politics, religion, economics. We can go there. We have the power to go there and influence people, right? Now, I'm not a scholar in the religious sense, but, you know, I've picked up a book here and there and self-taught. And to think, like, there's monothesis, so one God, there's multi-gods in religions, there's energies or nirvana, then there's, I would say, the Old Testament, New Testament, Islam, the Baha'i, all starts with the original Old Testament. So it comes to a progression. But in the end, it's what God tell you to kill. No, he says respect the neighbor. The basic 10 commandments, I would say, are the same in any background, religion or faith. So you don't look at your differences. And that's where I'm going back to where I say we're a fear-monger society. And so the powers that be divide and conquer. If you and I and our neighbors and the different church and the other mosque and the temple were all unified, working together, and we were still kept down, meaning poor, not having the basic necessities of life, we would unite. We would fight the system. We would say something is wrong. Why is minimum wage $10 when the rest of Canada is making $15, $20? What is the requirement standard of living? It's what, $15, $16? So how, in the most expensive province, can we be sitting here at $10 an hour? There's something wrong. Now, it doesn't fall on faith, you guys. This falls on people with money and power. I think people with faith are the ones with the power. We just don't believe it yet. It's going to come soon, I think. I mean, what is the belief with the Baha'i? The next forthcoming is within the next 100 years. The new world government, unified, rebuilding the church in Jerusalem. Yeah. The first time I experienced a unified church, let's say, would be in India again. And there's this town called Beas, B-E-A-S. And it's the cleanest town in India. It's about half hour away from the holy city of Golden Temple, Amritsar. And there's a group, you might have heard of Radha Swamis? Radha Swami. So they look Sikh, I would say. They wear turbans and they go to the Sikh temple. And but they preach from all religious texts. So it's called a satsang. And I mean, wow, 5 million people gathering under a tent. It's all, you could hear a pin drop with 5 million people there. It was just unreal. They gather, it takes about 2 hours to get everybody seated, and then they have 3 people sitting up on stage. And so the first person will read from whichever book they've chosen that day, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Quran, whether it's the Gurkha. And so one person will read a passage, and the next pastor or priest would translate it. So it was unreal. Like, I couldn't believe it. I asked my dad, I'm like, what's going on? And my dad is like, well, they're sharing their faith. Right here, it's being translated through all different faiths and backgrounds. And I'm like, in India, Dad? Aren't we, like this is my learning curve? And he goes, no. Don't you know what the Sikh temple is? And I was like, what do you mean, Dad? He goes, well, it says God is one on the temple. And I'm like, okay, it does say God is one. And he goes, well, he means all gods. It doesn't matter which God you are. Like, at some point, it all came from the same. And I'm like, okay, so that's why we're reading. He goes, no, even beyond that. Why is a temple square? And I'm like, no, I don't know. And he goes, well, there's a door on each side, north, east, west, south. It means anybody is welcome from all corners of earth. So like Buddhism, Sikhism is like a philosophy of life. And it was 10 gurus that started writing this book. And so it is believed that they were channeling God's word into writing. And after the 10th guru finished his writings, it was finished off as the Guru Granth Sahib, and Sikhs were told to consider the Guru Granth Sahib Ji as their God. So when you notice that people go to the temple and put money in and bow down, they're bowing to the book. They're not bowing to anything else. Now, it's not saying we believe. So Sikhs will actually tell you that we've never seen, heard, or know of God. We just know there is. And so it tells you basically the 10 Commandments. Live this way, be this way. And their belief is karma, reincarnation. And at some point you will reincarnate enough times that you will no longer be needing to reincarnate, and you will, like Nirvana, be one with the ultimate energy power. And so I couldn't believe that. And I mean, I'm 19, 20 years old with my dad in India, and I'm learning this for the first time. And this is a story. Like, you're looking at a brown guy standing here. I grew up white. And in grade 4, this is insane. In this town of Abbotsford, you know, by Killerbrook Road, ABC Restaurant, North Poplar Elementary. So in grade 4, that's about 1986. 86. We had a note sent home from our teacher saying, oh, your kids are speaking Punjabi in class, and if they don't stop speaking Punjabi, we're going to fail them. And at that time, out of the 30 kids in our class, 25 were Indian. A couple white, couple Asian, but 25 of us were Indian in that little neighborhood. So Mom and Dad are like, okay, we're not doing this, boys. We're moving. So we moved to the other side of town by Yale, Ledgeview. And we end up at a school called Prince Charles Elementary. And on the first day of school, there's no other East Indians there. No brown, no Asian, just a school of white kids. And I've got a turban on my head. I'm standing on the sideline here. I got no friends. I can't talk Punjabi to. And I just remember, I'm like, you have to make a good first impression. So we're standing on the side, and it's a top field. You're going to go play soccer or football. But on the first day of school, you can't sign out a ball. You can't go and check anything out because nothing's open. And somebody had brought their own tennis ball, and they're picking teams to play a game of football. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to play. They're going to include me. And so, of course, they put me on the small team, and the first play was for me. And it was a setup. They were going to try and knock me out. And I remember it clearly because the biggest guy on the other team was lined up against me. And I'm like, hey, this is not going to be good. And I'm pretty athletic. I'll surprise you. For a little tiny guy back then, I could run pretty good. And so first ball comes up, and I know if I go and catch it where they want me to catch it, I'm a dead man. There's no chance. So being quick, I quickly cut off, got the ball, and I beat everybody. I mean, the fastest guy in grade 7, this little grade 4, came. So I never experienced bullying or name calling because at that point, they all wanted me on their team, right? So from that experience, I was accepted as an outsider. So recess is over, we get inside and go for PE. And My brother's name is Shona. If you know any Punjabi families, there's Shona, Mona, Soni, Moni is a regular name in our culture. And I was Mona. And so a guy with long hair down to his butt named Mona in the boys' change room. And all of a sudden, there's guys like, aren't you supposed to be in the change room? Are you supposed to be in the other change room? And I made a point of letting him know I'm definitely not a girl. It's like, no offense to women here. You can be just as strong as guys can be. I'm not saying that. But it was a shock to me that 20 minutes away in the same town of Abbotsford that they didn't know what a Sikh was. That was my first question. I'm like, have you never seen a Sikh before? And they were like, huh, what? A what? And I'm like, well, the school I just came to in the same very town, like on the other side here, it's all of us. And I couldn't believe that segregation and division. So you only know what you are taught or what you can see. And it's actually an old Pink Floyd song, all you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be. And you try and expand past that. And that's what we're trying to do. Right? I mean, this is a story from 1986 that still resonates with me, and the difference between one small town of Abbotsford. And so if we can be segregated and divided in this small town, just imagine towns that they don't get television or get a chance to have outsiders come in and teach them. Imagine how divided they are. Imagine how dark their thoughts are, or how afraid they are of outsiders. And once again, fear. When we fear the unknown, we keep to ourselves and push the unknown away. And that's what we want to do, is get rid of the unknown. And once again, I'm going to refer to Spill Your Beans. Our job is to get rid of that. We don't want an unknown. We want to help change things. The X factor. Like, who are we? Like me, I'm Generation X. And I see after us the whole bra-burning, hippie, peace